My mother-in-law invoiced me for ruining her son's potential 3 years into our marriage. Janet sent me an itemized bill for $873,000. She'd calculated what her son David could have earned if he'd married the surgeon she'd picked instead of me. The document was 47 pages, granite binding questions included. She'd hired an actuary to calculate David's lost lifetime earnings from marrying a teacher instead of someone in his socioeconomic bracket. Page 1 started with our wedding. She'd listed every guest from her side who'd given gifts, calculating their wasted investment in a suboptimal union. My grandmother's $50 check was marked as negligible contribution from inferior family. David's an accountant, lengthy good money, we own a house, take vacations, save for retirement, but according to Janet's calculations, he's critically underachieving because of my limiting influence. She'd tracked every promotion he didn't get, assuming he'd have gotten them all with a power wife. One graph showed his motivation decline starting the day we met. She'd actually hired a private investigator to document how many hours he spent with me versus working overtime. The evidence included photos of us at restaurants during prime networking hours, screenshots of his Belizeans showing insufficient connection growth, even a stretchet of his gym attendance dropping after we started dating, with projected healthcare costs from his declining fitness. But here is the truly insane part. She created an entire alternate timeline. In this fantasy, David married Charlotte, the surgeon. Their combined income, investments, and networking would have made them millionaires by 40. She'd researched Charlotte extensively, her salary, her family's connections, her country club memberships. There was a whole section on the grandchildren they would have had, genetically superior offspring with Ivy League potential. Meanwhile, our daughter Emma was listed as a fine children with limited prospects because of my inferior genetics. Janet had been collecting this data for 3 years, every birthday party where we didn't invite her business contacts, every time David chose family dinner over a networking event, all documented as lost opportunities. She'd even calculated the value of his happiness. Eternally being happy with me cost him exactly $127,000 per year in reduced professional aggression. The meeting where she presented this was surreal. She'd rented a conference room, had copies for both of us, served coffee in china cups while explaining how I'd systematically destroyed her investment. I spent $200,000 raising him, she said, pointing to a pie chart. Elite schools, tutors, connections, you've devalued my asset. David sat there stunned. Then he noticed something Janet hadn't counted on. Page 38 had her own finances. She'd been borrowing against David's future success for years. Loans she'd taken assuming he'd eventually pay them back once he reached his potential. She owed $340,000, had been telling creditors her son would cover it once he came to his senses. That's when David spoke for the first time. You bet against my happiness? Janet pulled out another document, a remediation plan. If I agreed to divorce David, she'd pay me $50,000 to min me's transition costs. She'd already interviewed replacement wives, had 3 candidates with acceptable profiles ready to meet him. One was a senator's daughter, another owned a tech startup, the third was Charlotte, now divorced and available for reconsideration. Studied it carefully, then did something I'll never forget. He pulled out his phone, calculated something, and said, according to your math, Mom, happiness has a price. Here is mine. He wrote her a check for $873,000, post dated 50 years in the future. That's when I'll have lived my entire life with the woman I chose. Consider it payment in full for disappointing you. Then he took my hand and we left. Janet sent an updated invoice last week. Now we owe $1.2 million because David started his own firm instead of joining her friend's company. She included a photo of Charlotte's new engagement ring from some hedge fund guy. The caption read what Emma's college fund could have been. We framed it, hung it in David's new office, right next to Emma's kindergarten arch that says, "My daddy is my hero." Janet still calculating what that cost him.